Good now.
Is it recording?
Yes, all good, Mario. Ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Or somebody said in a previous call, good X for wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us on today's call about MetaMask Snaps. It's really wonderful to see everyone showing the enthusiasm that you are showing in chat. And I hope today's call would be really beneficial for all of you. We'll just go over a small introduction and then today's agenda and then get started into the meat of things. So my name is Mario Christopher. A few of you may know me with interactions on Telegram, Slack, or email, and some of us might have met over events in the last few months or in the last couple of years. So hello to everyone who I've already met. I'm a solutions architect with Consensus, and I've been working with MetaMask Snaps for the last 1.5 years now. And I've been closely involved with the Snaps core team, delivering the features that they provide to the developers, the builders out there. So I've built this kind of a rapport with all the builders out there, and I'm glad to share more updates. I'm glad to onboard all of you. Today's call is going to be an onboarding session. So it's primarily directed towards new Snap builders who would like to understand what the ecosystem is all about, how Snaps, what's the concept behind Snaps, how to write your own Snap, how to publish it, and so on. It can also be used as a refresher course for existing Snap builders just to get an idea of what the process is and where they are in the current Snap development process. What are the advantages of having your Snap? How do you interact with the ecosystem and so on? So today's agenda, we'll be covering, like I said, it's an introduction to Snaps. So we'll be talking about introduction to Snaps. We will talk about how you create your Snap. We'll talk about the execution environment. We'll talk about developer resources that you all can make use of. And finally, we'll look at some demos of 2 or 3 Snaps to get a better idea of where we stand in the Snap environment. I usually like to start off the onboarding sessions with a little video that was created by the Snaps team. So if you'll have your audio loud, that'll be really great. So just a minute on this video. Here you go. Can you all hear the sound?
No.
No?
No.
Rita, is there something you have to share for audio or anything?
Shouldn't be, because you're sharing, so it ideally should be, my volume is right up.
Rita, if you try to click share, there should be like a volume button. I think that's how I did it last time, but could be wrong.
No, this is more around sharing at the same time and who can share. And you can start sharing and someone else is sharing. Nothing around volume or audio.
Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll just watch the video. Sorry about the audio, and we'll go from there. And that's it. I can't tell you all how much of the bang was lost because the audio wasn't there, but you'll get the idea about the MetaMask snaps now in open beta and great features that are available in snaps. So moving from there, um, let's talk about what the Snaps ecosystem, what's the Snap platform. So many of us are familiar with, I mean, all of us are familiar with apps on your phones, and that's exactly the analogy I can use for Snaps on the Snaps on the Snaps platform in MetaMask Wallet. So when you get your phone, it's brand new. It's got all the features that just the phone manufacturer has in it, but you would like to expand the features on your phone. You would like to have things which do wonderful things like video editing, like connecting to your airlines, getting your flight information, and so on and so forth. So what you would normally do is go into an app store and pick all the different apps that you would like on your phone, install them on your phone, and suddenly your phone becomes something like a programmable device where you can extend its features, its functionality. So that's something similar to what the MetaMask Snaps platform is. When we created MetaMask, we knew that we could put all the goodness in the world in it, but there are still so many ideas out there which we cannot build into MetaMask because we are limited in terms of resources. And we know that there are so many wonderful ideas there which still can be added to the MetaMask wallet. And keeping this in mind is what we did when we opened up the Snaps platform. So the Snaps platform allows developers out there to add their own wonderful ideas and bring it as a snap into MetaMask wallet. So suddenly you now have a programmable wallet wherein it's not limited to the features of checking your balance, sending and receiving transactions, but you can do so many other things in terms of notifications, in terms of interacting with other chains, in terms of getting insights on transactions and so on. So it's basically opened up the wallet to everyone to add their own features such that the wallet for an end user can be totally programmable. And since every user is familiar already with an app store, they now get the idea of what the Snaps and the Snaps platform, the Snaps directory is, and thus they are able to expand the features of their MetaMask wallet. So a question would come up. So I'm using this in my wallet and my wallet has got my resources, my assets. Is it safe? So yes, it's safe. Every snap cannot do anything on its own. A snap requires permissions to be granted for it to do any kind of an activity. Like, for example, you want the snap to access the network, it needs permission. You want it to derive keys, it needs permission. You want it to show a notification, it needs permission. So as a snap builder, you would understand what permissions your snap needs and put that into a file called the manifest file. So what happens when an end user installs the snap, they see these lists of permissions and they say, okay, I know this snap, I know the snap builder, I know the company behind it, I trust them, and these are permissions which I'm willing to grant the snap. And thus the end user accepts the permissions and grants the permissions to the snap, and then the snap gets installed and is now able to do its functions. So that's the basic idea. A snap cannot exist on its own without permissions, and everything that a snap needs to do is granted by the end user. So for snap builders, all of us on the call, we are familiar with how a dApp talks to a wallet. So the wallet has its own set of APIs, and from the dApp, you make call to these wallet APIs and you execute things in the wallet. So some of the APIs that are Snap provided can also be accessed through the same wallet APIs, regular RPC communication. So you would have your set of wallet APIs, and then you would have a subset of the Snap APIs, and then you can make a call to these Snap API methods from your dApp, and thus execute the functionality in your Snap. Say, for example, you want your snap to show up a message when the user is doing something. So then you would make an RPC call to the snap and you would execute that function. You want the snap to send out a transaction. Then from your dApp, you would make an RPC call to your wallet, to your snap API, and you would execute that function to send out the notification. So all Snap functionality is exposed as APIs. So with all that said, what can a Snap actually do? So a lot. The answer is a lot. And this list is growing as we talk. For now, these are the functionalities which I can talk about. For example, transaction insights. When someone is sending out a transaction with MetaMask, you can write a snap which intercepts that transaction, which looks at that information, which reaches back to your service, a backend service, and checks more information in terms of the addresses, the contracts being interacted with, and you can return back useful information to the snap, and then the snap shows a little pop-up to the user saying, you are interacting with a malicious contract. Are you sure you want to proceed? Something similar with signature insights. When you are trying to sign a data, you can then use your snap to intercept that signature workflow and figure out what's happening. Are you signing the data and sending it to a proper contract, and so on. Custom EVM accounts. You don't have to stick to the EVM account created in the core MetaMask. You can create a snap which has its own secret recovery phrase. You can have a different way to interact with an account, a hardware wallet, and so on. So that's custom EVM accounts. You can have notification snaps, wherein a snap can send out a notification to the user based on some kind of an event happening on chain. Say, for example, you would like your snap to monitor certain events on a particular NFT. Then you can create a snap which allows the user to put in the NFT contract they are interested in. And whenever activity happens on that NFT in terms of buys, sales, transfers, whatever, you can then show notifications in your wallet. You can use a snap for creating a decentralized ID. You can have lifecycle hooks. When a snap is installed, you show some information to the user. When a snap is updated, you show some information to the user. We have even connections to non-EVM networks. So traditionally, MetaMask was an EVM wallet, but now you can expand that functionality and use that same MetaMask wallet to connect with non-EVM networks. Bitcoin, Cosmos, Solana, Starknet, all these networks are now accessible through MetaMask. The same wallet that you are fond of, that you are using for EVM, can now be used for non-EVM. You have cron jobs. You can set up cron jobs in your snap such that every 5 minutes or every 5 seconds, it does something, gets some information, shows it to the user, or whatever your business logic is. You can do name resolution now in snaps, wherein as a user types in a mario.eth or mario.lens in the send address, the name resolution snap kicks in, tries to resolve that to the actual address and uses that address. You have interactive UI in snaps. So the UI that was released when snaps were released was pretty basic, but now you have interactive elements. You can use UI as JSX components. So basically create your JSX components, throw them into a screen, and you're now able to see how you can create complex workflows with snaps. So all of this is, like I would say, the tip of the iceberg of what snaps can do. The remaining part of the iceberg is totally in your hands as builders. You can come up with wonderful ideas of what you want your snap to do and just make that run within MetaMask. And now your MetaMask wallet can expose your functionality to the world. So how would we go about creating snaps? Many of us as builders already are 90% there. We all know how to create a simple node module, a simple NPM package. It's just got its code, such as TypeScript or JavaScript. You would have your package.json. The one additional file for a snap here is called the snap.manifest.json. I touched upon this just now, where we spoke about permissions for snap. So this snap.manifest.json contains the permissions plus some other metadata that is required for the snap platform to execute your snap. We also provide some kind of tools or CLI tools for snaps, where these tools will help in building your project, in creating the SHA-SUM for the project, in bundling it up and allowing you to publish it. So like I said, most of you builders are 90% there. You can create an NPM package, which means you can create a snap. Once you have your NPM package, then you just publish it to NPM. At present, NPM is the only registry we use for snaps, but we are working with other registries to see how we can expand on this. But basically, you publish your snap to NPM, and then it is ready for the public to use. Anybody can now use your snap when they go to a dApp and try to connect to your snap. When an end user tries to install your snap, they would see a dialog which pops up saying, you want to install the snap. The snap is from so-and-so user. This is the NPM ID. Here is the GitHub repo. So there's a lot of information along with the permissions that is displayed to the end user, and the end user is able to make their decisions on whether to move forward in installing the snap or not. So this is the process where they also understand what functionality your snap provides in terms of the permissions that it's requesting from you and things like that. So from here on, the user is now in control of how they use your snap. So once a snap is installed, a user can open up the menu in MetaMask, go to the snaps menu, and then see the list of snaps that they have installed. So like I was talking about earlier, it's like a mobile phone, right? So you go to the App Store and install apps. The same thing happens here. You can install, as an end user, you can install more than one snap, and the snaps menu would show all the snaps that you have currently installed. You can select each of the snaps, go to the home page, interact with the snap based on what functionality it has, maybe set up configurations, put in an NFT address, and or work with the workflow in the interactive UI. So this is how an end user would interact with the snap. But behind the scenes, there's another interaction which can come into play, which is snap to snap or other dApps to your snap. So let's say you have this cool snap, which is going to be showing notifications. Now you realize that notifications can be useful not for just your business or your dApp, but you can actually open up this snap for other dApps also to use. This could be a monetization angle where you create a snap for notifications and allow other dApps to use your snap for a small fee, or you can just have it as an open source project and let others use your snap. So multiple dApps can now talk to your snap. And it's not just you and your ecosystem, but it can be the entire Web3 ecosystem that take advantage of your snaps. So with all that said, let's put it all into one single picture and see how this whole ecosystem or execution environment is. On the very right-hand side, you have the snaps registry, which is NPM. So all the snaps live in this registry in the cloud. You as a builder have developed your snap. You as a builder also have a dApp out there. So a dApp, or the companion dApp, is an important aspect for your snap. Now, based on your functionality in the snap, all your functionality could be within the snap, or you might feel that I need some more real estate. I need some more area to work with my snap. I need some more workflows, which all cannot happen within that small window in MetaMask wallet. So you now have your dApp. Your dApp can be looked upon as a landing page wherein wherein end users can come in, look at the functionality, what your snap is going to provide. You can have wonderful videos on your dApp. You can have user guides, knowledge bases on your dApp. You can have graphs on your graphs and dashboards on your dApp. So all of this gives additional information to an end user to understand what your snap does. The end user can also install the snap through your dApp, or the end user could go to the MetaMask snaps directory and then install the snap from there. So as I was saying, as a builder, you provide a snap and you provide a dApp. Your snap lives in NPM in the registry in the cloud. When a user installs your snap, that snap comes down from NPM, gets installed in MetaMask, and now the user is able to interact with the snap in MetaMask. Other dApps, if you have opened up your snaps for other dApps, then other dApps, when they are opened up, they can query the MetaMask wallet and see if this particular snap that they need is installed, and then they can interact with those snaps after getting the necessary permissions from the user. So there's a question on the chat. I understand that dApp is highly recommended. It is optional, isn't it? Exactly. A dApp is purely optional. It's because the snap can function. If your snap can function 100% on its own, then it doesn't need a dApp. But it is generally advisable to have a dApp because that is an area where you can showcase your snap. The snaps directory that we have from MetaMask can do just that much about your snap. It can show some images, it can give the permissions required by the snap, it can give a brief description. But if you want a more engaging interaction with your user, you could have this dApp, which does all these wonderful things about your snap, talks about your snap, and shows what are the future possibilities of your snap. So the dApp is purely optional, but you can do more things with your dApp. So this is an execution environment where you see all the pieces falling together in how this puzzle works, and that should give you a pretty good idea of where the snap is, how it is executed, where does it come from, and so on and so forth. So we are big on composability. We want the Web3 ecosystem to expand. We want snaps to be one of the core foundation elements in your experience with the Web3 system. So we have multiple snaps, multiple developers provide multiple snaps. Broadly speaking, you can have snaps which are account snaps. So account snaps are ones which deal with accounts. You could deal with EVM accounts, you could deal with non-EVM accounts. So a user who's installed the Starknet Snap, the Bitcoin Snap, the Cosmos Snap, they are now able to use MetaMask to connect to these other chains. You then have functional snaps. So like I said, a snap can show notifications, a snap can run cron jobs, a snap can show pop-ups, a snap can have a wizard-like workflow, and all these are functional snaps. So that is another grouping. And finally, we have third-party tools and SDK. So if you're a snap builder, it doesn't necessarily mean you are actually creating an NPM package with a UI and all of that goodness of the snap. You could be creating tools and SDK. You can have some AI-based backend services. You can have some backend service or APIs, which does transaction insights alone. And you can provide these tools, SDK, APIs to other Snap builders so they can use your stuff within their Snap. So it's just like you can compose your deliverable in such a way that it benefits everybody else in the Snap ecosystem as an Snap or as an SDK or a tool or an API. Each of these snaps now provide custom API. And like I said at the beginning of the call, you can now communicate with those snaps from your dApp using regular RPC calls and all of that stuff. So there's a question here regarding non-EVM. Is it possible to send, receive native tokens within a snap? So again, it depends upon the functionality of your snap. As long as you have access to interact with the blockchain, you can pull information from there. Snaps can now show images. So if you're interested in showing a little bit of NFT or something, yes, you can do that within your snap. An important note on key derivation. When we talk about snaps having access to accounts, when we talk about snaps having access to non-EVM chains, the important or the key component here are the private keys of the user. So one question many new Snap builders or Snap users ask is, does the Snap have access to my SRP? So the answer is no. MetaMask keeps the SRP well within its core, and it does not allow any snap to access the seed recovery phrase. In fact, the only way a snap can get any information from the SRP in terms of accounts is by deriving accounts out of the SRP. So these three methods, the get, BIP, get bib32, get bib44, and get entropy. These three methods allow you as a snap builder to derive keys from the SRP and then use those keys in your snap. Since you are going to be requesting for keys, this requires a permission. You have to list that permission in your manifest file. The end user, when they install the snap, they see that the snap is requesting permissions for keys, and they grant or do not grant the permission based on the trust level. Another point to note is the coin type 60, which is used for EVM chains, is reserved for MetaMask, which means you can only request for coin type other than coin type 60. So you can request coin types for Bitcoin, for Solana, for Cosmos, and are able to use your Snap to send transactions from within your Snap to these non-EVM chains. But if it's going to be coin type 60, which is for EVM, then we go back to the normal flow of your dApp initiating the request to an EVM chain. The request goes through MetaMask confirmation flow, and then that whole flow is just the normal flow. So key derivation is also an important aspect which comes into play when you're trying to allow list your snap. When we went live with snaps, every snap had to get allow listed through an auditing process, meaning you submit your snap to an auditor, and the auditor goes through your snap code and provides an audit report. And we at MetaMask verify this report before we allow list your snap. But since then, we have relaxed the requirements on auditing, where now if a snap requires key derivation, only then it needs to go through an auditing process. So if you use any of these entropy methods in your snap, then your snap is a candidate for an audit, and it goes through the auditing process. But the majority of snaps out there are functional snaps, which does not need entropy. And so now you can sail through the allow listing process without going through a costly auditing step. So that's something to keep in mind for the new snap builders out there in answering the question of whether I need an audit or not. So there's a question here: is it possible to interact with smart contracts from a snap, just like MetaMask does, without using a dApp instead of direct connection to the smart contract from the snap? Yes, there are multiple ways you can do it. And one of the ways is you can just talk to an API service that you have, and that API service can now do your smart contract interaction. You can also talk directly to a smart contract by using the injected provider. So to use the injected provider, which is the Ethereum provider, you would need to request a permission for your snap. And once that permission is available, then the provider is also injected within your snap. And then you can use that provider to talk to smart contracts or to the chains as a normal practice. So, but keep in mind that the provider that has been injected into the snap has limited functionality. You wouldn't be able to do everything with it that you could do from a provider that's injected into the dApp. And this is just for safety and security reasons. But for most reasons, for most cases where you're just trying to read information, you should be able to do that with the provider that's injected into the snap. Keep in mind, of course, that you have to request that permission, and you would find which permission is for which action in our documentation. Okay, moving further. Talking about documentation, that's a good segue into our next section. So our next section is going to be talking about the resources that we provide to snap builders for them to move along in their journey. So the first thing that anybody should get through is the snaps overview. So we'll be sharing this slide deck to all of you. So you should be able to get to these links. So when you check out these links, the snaps overview. So that takes you to a brief introduction to snaps. And here is the same video, which I showed at the beginning. And hopefully when you see this in your browser, you can see the wonderful music behind it and appreciate what you all missed in this call at the beginning. So this gives an overview on what the snaps are. You can also look at Builder Education Series. So this is a list of YouTube videos that we put out on a regular basis, Today's call will also be uploaded to this YouTube channel, and you would be able to see the call, the recording here. So for someone who asked the question, is this going to be recorded? Yes, and you can access the recording from this YouTube channel. The other videos that get uploaded here are part of the Builder series that we conduct on a regular basis, talking about the new features that are coming out. For example, here you have something that's talking about signature insights, interactive UI. There are best practices, account management, snaps, and so on. So keep an eye on this channel because new features of snaps would be showing up here as videos. So this is a task where you're just learning about snaps and figuring out what happens in snaps. What's next? So once you learned about snaps, then you get into the process of building your snap. So again, here we have exhaustive documentation. So when we look at the snaps documentation, it starts off with what can you do with a snap? And it talks about all the different features which we looked at: cron jobs, custom UI, data storage, home pages, lifecycle hooks. So there's a lot of information which expands more on what I touched upon. And with this, you can understand how you go about bringing these features into your snap. Design guidelines. So before you start developing your snap, it's always best to come up with a design, a guideline on how your snap should be carrying out its processes or its functions. A good design goes a long way in gaining your users' trust and in spreading the word, by word of mouth at least, that your snap is a great snap. So you need to take care of certain design elements, which makes it easier for users to interact with snaps. And this again ties into the question of, do we need a DApp? So as I said, a DApp is optional, but if you want to do a great job in how you introduce your snap to the user, you want to put in some workflows saying what you can do with your snap, then design guidelines come into play, and then you can apply that into a DApp for users. You need to get into some basics as to how you display notifications and text. Do you want to do a 100-word statement, or do you want to do a 15 or 20-word statement? So again, this allows the user to get immersed in your snap rather than say, okay, I'm not going to read all of this information. So design elements play a very important role. How you embed existing flows. We spoke about interactive UI. So at the end, we'll see a demo where we can design your workflows within a snap, even if it's going to be a snap which collects a lot of data, how you can break that down into a number of steps and show a wizard-like flow in your snap so that the user is not intimidated by the amount of information they are providing, but they go through it through a very smooth flow in terms of design. So this is definitely something you need to read through before you get too deep into your snaps. Talking about the snaps simulator. Now, again, the question on a DApp, do I need a DApp? So a DApp could be useful during your development process to test out all the methods on your snap, making sure that when you have your real life DApp out there, is the interaction happening correctly? But if you don't want to go down that route of creating a DApp, then you can come to the Snaps simulator. So the Snap simulator is a tool which can be used to directly interact with your Snap, and all the wiring is done behind the scenes. So you could come in here to the Snap simulator and you could click on the local host. So if your Snap is running locally from your development environment, you can connect it to the port 8080. But if you're trying to connect to an existing Snap, let's say a builder wants to use an existing snap in their DApp, then they can come to the snap simulator, they can go to npm, they can put in the URL for the snap that they are interested in, connect to that snap, and then they can come back to the simulator and execute all the JSON API methods on the snap. So just put in your JSON API methods, call the requested API on the snap, and you would be able to see the response on the right-hand side. So this tool is great for you to interact with your own snap or with any other snap that is already published out there without having to wire up a DApp on your own to do things. Another useful reason this tool can be used for is checking the manifest file. So if you pick a manifest file, if you click on this manifest file, I'll show this again when I'm running a snap locally, but what this tool can be used for is to check the correctness of your snap. So when you, as a Snap developer, write your code and you use the Snap CLI to build your code, it generates a SHA-SUM, and this SHA-SUM is very important for us to verify your Snap when it is being installed in the platform. So as a developer, you can come to this tool, check the manifest, and see if the SHA-SUM has been generated correctly and every other requirement for the Snap is correct before you then plan to publish your Snap to NPM. This is also a step you would have to undertake when you request an allow listing of your Snap, just to make sure again that your GitHub URLs are set right, your SHA-SUM is generated correct, and everything else that you need in terms of permissions are set right for your Snap. So the tool, the simulator tool, is a very important tool in your arsenal as a developer. Make use of it wisely. So once you have done once you're done developing a snap and testing it and so on, we then go into the launching process. So again, we have a readiness guide, which goes through a number of questions, just asking you in a proper workflow, how ready your snap is for a launch. You then have the audit process. And like I was saying, only if your snap interacts with these APIs, then you need an audit. If not, you don't need an audit. So let's say you do need an audit, then we have a list of approved auditors. These auditors are familiar with how a snap works and what are the things to look out for in a snap. So please reach out to these auditors to know, to audit your snap. And of course, auditing is going to cost you a pretty sum. So we also have a grants program. So if you are a candidate for auditing a snap, please visit the grants DAO page to see if you can get a grant. Mostly you should be able to qualify for a grant. So put in your application, we would respond back to you. And if your grant is awarded to you, you can use that for covering costs such as audits and stuff. And once your snap is allow listed, it then gets onto the MetaMask snaps directory. So this is the place where all the snaps that are allow listed are located. You can go into each one of these snaps and look more information about what the snap does. So like I was saying, this is limited information that the snaps directory provides about your snap. But if you're interested in showcasing more about your snap, videos, knowledge base, etc., you can have your own dApp, which would then be a landing page for your snap. So you could install your snap from the directory, or you could install your snap from the dApp that you provide. Once all that is done, you still need to be part of the ecosystem. So we have a way to connect back to us. We have a Snap improvement proposals. So if you like something that you want to see in Snaps, you can go in there and make a proposal. We would definitely look into it and revert back to you. We have a discussion board. We have Discords, we have the MetaMask Snaps team. Clicking on each of these links would take you to a way where you can communicate back to us so that we can get continuous feedback from all of you as Snap builders. So with that said, let's jump into the demo portion. But before I look into demos, I just want to take a quick minute here to ask anybody, do you all have questions on what we've looked at before we start looking at the demo? Cool, no questions means I'm doing a great job, so I'm happy with that. Let's get into some demos. So we spoke a lot about, there's a question here. I missed part of the beginning, but what's the status of Snaps on MetaMask Mobile? Yes, so we are still working on migrating the Snaps platform to MetaMask Mobile. We should have some information coming down the pipeline, but as of now, it's just an the answer is it's on the backlog, and we are working on moving the Snaps platform to the mobile platform. No concrete times on it, sorry. So yeah, so yes, we looked at Snaps everything about the directory and installation process. So we'll just go through a quick installation just to see how things work. And I tend to use a test browser, which has got the necessary tools required for testing out stuff. So I'm in here, and let me just go to snaps. So just the normal flow for a Snap installation from an end user's point of view. So the end user comes to the Snap directory or the App Store for Snaps, and they pick one Snap. I like to go with the Linear Voyager Snap for two reasons. One, it's a simple Snap, and two, it is developed in-house. So we are very proud of the Snap. So I click on this, and I see some information about the Snap. Everything that's on this page is provided by you, the builder, to us. So you as a builder would say, these are the three images I would like to show as what my Snap does. So you pick the best images of your Snap, whether your Snap looks good from the left side or the right side, take that picture, send it to us. We put those three pictures on the page here. You also provide us with a description on what your Snap does, and we pull out the permissions from the manifest file and show it here. We have more details which we show to the user in terms of the GitHub repository code, which version this is. You can see who the builder of the Snap is. So a lot of information on just this one page. And we go ahead and install the Snap. So first, there's a connection request. So the dApp can be connected to your wallet. I'm allowing that connection. It then goes to the first step of saying Linear Voyager is a Snap, and these are the permissions that the Snap is requesting. I confirm on that. It then moves forward to complete the Snap installation. And that's it, it's done. Once a Snap installation is complete, we show a pop-up which takes which could take the user to the dApp that this particular Snap has. So we do have a simple dApp here. I click on that link, and it brings us to the dApp. Again, a very simple dApp where I have a quick video on what my Snap does and how you can look at the functionality in the Snap. You can connect to watch an address, or you can change the address, so some more functionality provided in the dApp. And that's it. That's a quick workflow as to what how a Snap can be installed. If you go back into the MetaMask wallet, finish up this, and here is a home page of the Snap. It says, an on install hook of the Snap. It says, thank you for installing the Voyager Snap, and so on and so forth. You can then go into the menu, Snaps, and then you can see your Snap installed there. So that is the way the user would install a Snap and look at what the Snap does. I would prompt you to go into this documentation and see what this Linear Voyager Snap does. Just moving on. The user could then decide, I don't want the Snap, click on that settings icon, and they could come down here and remove the Snap from their wallet. So that was a quick demo on what the Snap install process looks like. Now let's look at the next demo. So here, okay, so this is a demo which allows us to go ahead with getting started on creating snaps. So as a user, as a builder, you would come to this documentation page and you would copy one of these commands where it allows us to bootstrap and create the whole code repository for you. The repository that's created is a monorepo. So let's look at that. I've done this already last night, so I didn't have to spend time here on the call with y'all. So let's just open up that. Yep. So I've already done that where I've created the mono repository. So as the documentation talks, you run this command, you run yarn install, and you run yarn start, and that's it. Everything else is done in here for you. The monorepo, just looking over it, it creates two packages. One is the site, which is a very, very simple dApp allowing you to interact with your Snap. And here is your Snap. So you just run the yarn start command. And what this does is it starts off your project, meaning it builds your site. the CLI tools come into play. It builds your snap. It generates the SHA-SUM. If you look at the manifest file, this was the special file which I said, which is part of the NPM package. It builds your code, it generates the SHA-SUM, and this is important because this is how we verify your snap. This file also has the various permissions that are required for the snap. This is a basic snap, so you just have a very few permissions, allowing us to do RPC calls to the snap, allowing us to show a dialog. The site is a simple React application, which has a couple of buttons, which we will see in a minute, but that's it. Once that is done and the start process is complete, I just jump into this URL and it, yep. So again, would like to run it in my dev browser, right? So here is a simple dApp that has been created, and it's just got two buttons where it says connect and send hello. So connecting it, it brings up the connection request for the locally running snap, and you would note it is running from localhost 8000. So I connect, and like I showed in the snap manifest file, it's a very simple one. So just two permissions required for this. Proceed, installation complete, and we've provided one RPC method. So let's look at that RPC method. If I go into the snaps, source, index. So in here, you have an RPC method. There is just one handler. So I'm going to be calling a method called hello on the snap, and that is going to be showing up a snap dialog. So going back here, I click on the send message, and my snap pops up, and it just says the hello. So this is a workflow again on how fast and how simple it is to get started on Snap development. Just run the yarn command. It creates your mono repository, and from there on, you can keep expanding on your Snap. You can continue using your simple dApp here through your development process, or you can have your real life dApp also developed in parallel, and you can work on that. Now, since the snap is running from local, let me jump back to the snap simulator that I was talking to you about and see what the snap simulator does here. So here's the snap simulator. So yeah, the snap simulator is here, and I'm going ahead and picking up the current snap running local to that, and I come in here. So now I see my snap, this manifest file. I need an icon. That's why it's showing me the orange dot here. So many snap builders forget to put an icon which shows their product. They end up with using the default snaps icon. So the snap manifest file is showing that here is an issue. You need to fix this. But other than that, it shows the SHA-SUM has been generated correctly. It shows the permissions. So here is a great tool for you to work with your snap in terms of verifying its validity before pushing it to NPM or further. You can also go to the JSON RPC piece here, and you can call your hello method. I don't think it takes any parameters, so I'll clear out this parameter set and run it. Oh, there's an RPC error. So yeah, maybe some parameters come in here. Anyway, so this is how you would test your RPC method on your snap. Now, jumping into the last demo for the day, which would be showing us something on interactive UI. So the GitHub repository is here. So this repository is created to show how an interactive UI can be brought about in the snap. So your snap need not just be a single trick pony where it shows a message or it sends a transaction, but you can do a complex workflow in bringing about your functionality. So I would encourage you to get this app and test it out. It's called Snappy Airlines. And what can be more complicated than booking a flight ticket? So this snap is trying to show you how you can encompass that complex process within the snap and yet have a great experience for the user. So I've done that too. I've downloaded and created, I've installed this the repository, so we save time on today's call. So in this repository, let me get started on this. Before that, let me stop this one because it's using the same port. Okay, so this repository shows you the latest in terms of the Snap Interactive UI, which are the JSX components. So getting this started while I talk about it. Yeah, so when we look at the Snap here, every item, every element in here can be created as JSX components. So if you're familiar, of course, you should be familiar with React, you would have no problem creating the UI here. So it's going to be a great experience while you're working with components in here to create your flows. You have interactive UI where you can merge stuff together, where you can create wizards, where you can have drop downs, buttons, images, and all of that stuff. So let's look at how this demo works. So there is my dev. Yep, so this is the one I'm going to be using and running this snap. Okay, so here we are on the DApp for the Snappy Airlines. But before I do that, let me remove the previous snap which was installed because that also was running from port 8080. Okay, so my snaps list is clear. So refresh the page. Okay, so I connect and I'm installing Snappy Airlines Snap. So you see Snappy Airlines, that's name, the permissions that are required for the snap, confirm, installation complete. This snap doesn't have a companion dApp, so it's running independent, which is why we don't see a pop-up coming up saying go to the dApp. So there is no dApp, it's running on its own. So once I'm done installation, I have an on install hook, which shows you, thank you for installing the snap, what you would like to do further. Here, the on install hook is saying, do you want to go to home page? So I say yes. If I go to the home page, or I just say no and I'm done with my installation. Then I go back into my Snap when I need to book my flight tickets, and I pick the Snappy Airlines Snap, and you see that we can now show images in your Snap. We can have like a menu so that the user can go through stuff. Let me see, click on account info, and now I'm allowing the user to interact within the Snaps UI where they can go to different pages and then come back to the home. So I'm in here seeing my account information, John Smith, my frequent flyer number, member since. I go back home. Then I want to see my flight history. It shows a paginated view. So you have, these are my previous flights. I can go to next page, previous page, check everything in the paginated view. Again, this is developed by you as a builder, so you can define the size of your page and how you want to do that. Go back to the home page, and finally, a wizard-like format to book your flight. And since it's a wizard-like format, I've given step 1 of 4, so the user knows that there are 4 steps. You have first name, last name, you move to the next page, you can move to the previous page too, and you can build in validation. So you can cancel, if you remove this information, you can now validate the stuff. You can show error messages saying first name cannot be empty and so on. So let me put back that information in here. So the user can now walk through multiple steps in your process, picking in the flight date, drop downs showing the different cities that you want to fly in and out of. Next, review your information. Next, you can have a progress bar, so that place is where you can make a call to your backend API and come back. Finally, you have the results where you get a voucher code, and then you can go to the Snappy Airlines website where you can apply the voucher code and get your ticket by selecting your seats, your food, your menus, and all of that stuff. You're done with that, go back home. So this was an example of how you can have a wizard-like flow using the latest JSX components in your Snap. So with that said, a quick breeze through of that demo. Let's go back to our main page and what's next. So we have Q&A. We have about 2 or 3 minutes, and I see that the chat has been busy. And Christian, thank you so much for taking care of answering those questions. At this point, yes, we can take a quick pause for Q&A before we wrap up the call. The just reading the just reading the chat, sorry. The interactive UI is amazing. That's exactly what I was wishing for back in the day. Are there any plans to allow access to QR scanner in the Snap? Yes, we've been talking about QR scanners, USB interaction, and so on, but those are in the pipeline, and we will be reaching back to you on dates once we have specific release cycles for all this functionality, because that's definitely going to open up a number of doors in terms of functionality, in terms of adding hardware wallets through USB or Bluetooth. So all of this interactivity with these snaps will be opened up soon. Just be tuned for that. Any other questions? Yeah, to help keep track. Oh, that's Ashley's, right? Okay. Since the chat is still active, I'll keep the call running for another 2 or 3 minutes. We have reached the top of the hour, but I'll keep the call running for another 2 or 3 minutes if you all are interested. Otherwise, please reach back to us by the same medium that you got this invite, Telegram, Slack, or email, and we would be more than happy to answer all your questions. And like I said, we'll also be sharing this this presentation deck, so you have all the links available in it. Great. Thanks everyone for joining, and see you on our next Builder Series call.
Thank you all. Thanks all. Bye.